How to maximize fuel on a budget. When it comes to sports nutrition, I've told you the what, I've told you the why. Now I'm gonna show you how to eat and how to do it while saving some extra cash. Hello, welcome back to Inc. Nutrition, where we're all about mind, body, and food. My name is Jack, sports dietitian, and welcome to our fifth and final part of our sports nutrition series. We've gone over macronutrients, pre-exercise nutrition, recovery nutrition, hydration, and now we are gonna dive into budget, how to maximize fuel, what to eat to not only improve performance in general, but how to do it while saving some money. So we're just gonna first dive in here by talking about three main problems so that we can address those problems. All right, number one, food cost. Inflation rates have reached a 40-year high, and prices for groceries have gone up 13.5%, which is also a 40-year high. It's absurd. I feel like I cannot go to the grocery store without spending like $100, which is ridiculous. Food prices on average have disproportionately gone up compared to all consumer goods. So you can actually see this graph from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. You know, as soon as we got to like 2020, these prices for groceries have just skyrocketed. Problem number two is food insecurity. This remains a big issue in this country, okay? Rates of food insecurity here in the US are about 11%, food insufficiency 20%, and when it comes to college students and college athletes, those numbers can get up to 40%, super high. Now, I know it's very unrealistic to try to come up with solutions to fix food insecurity. I just want to bring this up because it's a problem and it remains a big barrier. Problem number three, okay, lack of nutrition knowledge. How many of you heard that healthy food is expensive? I personally think that's absurd, okay? I think we need to really redefine healthy food, okay? It doesn't mean buying these specialized products from specialized stores. You know, it comes down to just eating a balance of variety of whole fresh produce, which we'll get into. But athletes also underestimate their nutrient needs, okay? Consistently, the research shows that athletes do not eat enough because partly they don't think they need to eat a certain amount. And there's this concept of nutrient density, okay? We need to maximize our choices by choosing foods that have the best like return on investment, essentially. Athletes consistently report confusion on which foods to buy for optimal health and performance. So athletes just, as a whole, don't know what to choose. So when you combine these three problems of high food cost, food insecurity, lack of knowledge, this leads to, or can lead to, one, stress and anxiety, two, energy deficiency, which can then lead to poor performance, and more importantly, compromised health. So let's first get into part one of budget strategies, which will go into buying food, okay? Grocery shopping, eating out, even online options. So before you even get to the store, this is one of the biggest tips I can give you. Ask yourself, do you even have to go to the store? Be creative with what you already have. Take inventory at your home. Look in your fridge, in your pantry, and, be creative. Check the current sales, okay? Not enough people do this. Grocery stores are constantly putting on sales. Look at flyers, online coupons, even apps. So I really like these two, Ibotta and Flip, okay? Ibotta you can sign up for and you can get really money back based on just buying food at certain stores. And then Flip, you can actually determine where the best sales are based on your local area. Really good. Check those out. Plan your meals for the week. Okay, multi-purpose ingredients is a great tip. Choose foods that you know can be used for multiple recipes. Makes sense, but not enough people do this. Include nutrient-dense carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We've talked about this in the macronutrient episode, so go check out that if you want to know some examples of those foods. But we want to make sure that we're buying foods as an athlete that will support our performance. And finally, be realistic. Only buy what you know you're going to eat. I know it can be exciting to start something new, but just don't go all in and buy a ton of food for it to just rot in the fridge. Also, stick to a list. So once you do form this plan, here's an example grocery list, okay? So always making sure that you have some food products at home from each of these categories is, a great way to go. It will set you up for success. So whole grain products, here's a list of those. Protein foods, of course. Whole fresh fruits and vegetables. Don't forget the healthy fats. And then there is this bonus category, which I love as well. So now let's talk about this grocery game plan to save. We're gonna go into each kind of section within the grocery store and talk about a few tips on how to save some money. So in the produce area, shop for in-season fruits and veggies. Now, here's a list of some of those within Colorado. I'm just showing Colorado because that's where I live, but you can find a produce calendar for really wherever you are, and those food items are always going to be cheaper. Look for the sale sections. Again, we mentioned this as soon as right when you walk into these stores. Sometimes they have these stands, right, that sometimes they have an overstock of a certain fruit or vegetable and it's like half off, so keep that in mind. Avoid pre-cut produce, so things that are already in packages. You don't need to buy that, just cut it yourself, okay? And those foods are definitely going to be more expensive. Moving on to the meat, poultry, and seafood section. So just to keep in mind, poultry is typically always the most affordable animal source of protein, like chicken or turkey. Also consider buying store-bought rotisserie, all right? These are like usually $5, already prepared for you, really simple, and you can just peel away that chicken and use it in so many different recipes. Also consider tough cuts of meats. So, things like a chuck roast, for example, is like half the cost of other cuts of meat. And then you can just prepare that in a different way, like toss it in, a roast and braise it. Okay. It produces an amazing, tender, delicious product. You just got to, expand your cooking abilities, and then you can save a lot of money that way. And then you can also buy wholesale meat at certain butchers, so check that out too. Moving on to the bread aisle. Often grocery stores will put on bread that's about to expire on sale. You can buy that and then just freeze it, right? Freeze sliced bread comes out in the toaster perfectly. So check that out. Bake your own bread. Now this is a bit ambitious, I understand, but you will save money if you want to take on that challenge. When it comes to the dairy section, avoid the single serving containers of yogurt. Buy the large bins. And you also don't need to go to specialty stores and buy, $10 plus gallons of milk. Okay, you just, that's not necessary. When it comes to cheese, rather than the pre-shredded stuff, go for the blocks and shred it yourself. It's tastier, higher quality usually, and cheaper. Consider soy milk too. Okay, this can often be more affordable than dairy milk, and it's a fantastic plant-based substitution. Now, when you make your way to the frozen section, look at those fruits and veggies. Sometimes they're pricey, sometimes they're really affordable, but the benefit is, they're not going to expire. They're going to stay in your freezer, so, you can keep them and just use them when you need them. Burgers, right? Frozen veggie burgers are awesome. Black bean burgers, really good. Sometimes those are cheap. Now, the beverages, okay. Please don't buy plastic bottles. If you're still doing this, I really encourage you to make a change in behavior there. Choose a water filter pitcher, right? Instead, that way, you can still have filtered water without, spending money on bottles. Sports drink powder, okay, as opposed to the actual bottles themselves to mix in and make your own sports drinks. Make your own coffee and tea, please. All right. If you want to go and enjoy yourself at a coffee shop, fine, that's great. But every day, right, having a $5 cup of coffee adds up tremendously. And then finally, instead of having those, cans of like sparkling water, if you really like that, try infusing water yourself with some fresh fruit, maybe some lemon juice. And yeah, you're going to save money. It's tasty too. Continuing on to the bulk food section, please visit this area in the grocery store every time you go. Whenever you're trying to buy grains, beans, lentils, granola, nuts, seeds, flour, even dried fruit, not only is this food usually healthier because it's very minimally processed, but it's always going to be more affordable. And then the convenient food aisles, right in the middle of your grocery store. Here's some tips. Check out the generic brands as opposed to the name brands, usually on the bottom shelf. They're just as good, same ingredients, but like sometimes half the cost. Canned beans, tomatoes, canned tuna, okay, those are still great options and pretty nutrient dense. And then you can also consider making your own stock, like chicken stock or veggie stock, or your own condiments and sauces, right? Olive oil and vinegar for dressings, your own homemade pasta sauce, even homemade hummus. Takes a little bit of time, but it's better for you and it'll save you on the money. Here's some tips when eating out. First, remember that lunch is almost always cheaper. So, make sure you kind of make it before the cutoff if you want to save some cash there. Be mindful of drink choices, all right? These add up really quick. Just choose water. Ask for a to-go box. You don't have to finish your meal completely, and even if you got a little bit left on your plate, you can kind of repurpose that later. Make going out more of a special occasion, An appetizer, which is often much cheaper than an entree, can also be a meal. And check out some money-saving apps too. There's so many out there. Here's just a few. Again, we're not sponsored by any of these apps, but there's a lot out there. Now, online options. Online grocery shopping has been very popular, and I think for good reason, right? There's a lot of opportunities here. You can order and pick up at the store, which saves time. You can limit impulse buying by do this, right? Because you stick to a list whenever you're, choosing your online, cart. A lot of stores offer this. Now, you also have food delivery services, okay? Grocery store delivery, that's one thing. Saves, again, a lot of time and money and gas money. You can also consider these food delivery subscriptions, all right? Things like, Misfits Market, they use a lot of produce that kind of was rejected by the grocery store, so it's much cheaper. Something pretty cool. Again, not sponsored, but awesome to check out. Now, budget strategies part 2. All right, preparing food. We talked about buying food. Now, how can you save money while preparing food? I first just want to mention a few barriers to cooking that I hear all the time and some strategies to overcome. So number 1, I don't have time to cook. Wow, I hear this from almost everyone. Well, you can prepare ahead of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. We just got to reprioritize those hours, right? Grocery shop online, we just mentioned that. There's a lot of no-cook meals too that don't require a stove or an oven. Things like salads and smoothies. There are all kinds of stuff that, you can just assemble fresh ingredients. Load up a slow cooker in the morning so it's all ready to go by the time you get home from work. Cook your grains, beans, veggies, and protein in bulk once a week at the beginning. Maybe spend an hour and a half doing this. That will set you up for success throughout the week. Number 2, I don't know how to cook. That's okay. Start really small. Keep it simple. Cooking does not have to be extravagant. Master one dish at a time, okay? And then just build up a repertoire and you will become a pro home chef in no time. Use resources. YouTube, Pinterest, my gosh, there are so many amazing recipes that you can follow online. Also, treat recipes as a guide. You don't have to follow it to a T, okay? If you don't have 1 or 2 of the ingredients, fine, that's all right, improvise. And then of course, the other barrier is it's just cheaper to eat fast food. Not true, I challenge that. Money saving tip number 1, cook once, eat multiple times. You're already spending time in the kitchen, you might as well prepare enough for not only a meal then, but also a meal later. Be creative with what you already have. We talked about this. Really look in your pantry and just see, okay, I got a grain, I got a bean, we can do something here. Think of meat sometimes as a side dish. So meat, is typically going to be the most expensive ingredient that you buy at the store. And if you view, your whole grains, your beans, your legumes, your nuts and seeds, veggies and fruits more as the main course and your meat as the side dish, you will save money and also add a lot of nutrients to your diet. And then just adding on to that, there's a lot of great plant-based proteins that are going to be more affordable, like tofu and tempeh, nut butters, even protein powder sometimes can be really good if you're not meeting your protein needs. And then, like I said before, keep your meals simple. You don't need to look at a recipe book and get all 15 recipes for just one meal. That's kind of absurd. Well, if you want to do that, great. You want to challenge yourself and you like that, awesome, go for it. But you don't have to do that, right? There's so many amazing recipes that only require like 4 ingredients. Okay, now lastly, I have to talk about supplements, of course. Please follow a food first philosophy. Think food first, supplements second. Why? one, you're gonna save a lot of money, and two, you probably don't need them. You may need them under certain circumstances, but most of the time you can meet all your nutrient needs from following a balanced diet full of variety. But if you want to know more about supplements, check out our previous video. I also want to mention that I created a whole series on how you can only spend $120 on food per month per person. So please check that out. We went over 4 different weeks of really meal planning. So that is a really helpful resource, and it is proof that you do not have to spend that much money to eat a high quality diet. So wow, that was a lot of information. Thank you for staying with me. If you missed anything, you can always watch this again. So that wraps up our sports nutrition series. I hope I answered most of your questions in the world of sports nutrition. If I didn't, drop it in the comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And again, if you want to know anything else about nutrition, drop that in the comment and we'll talk about it. Woo! So, again, my name is Jack, Sports Dietitian. We are Inc. Nutrition. Thank you very much for following, for watching, for commenting, liking, subscribing. And I will see you next Wednesday. Thanks so much. Bye. Peace.